Hello again, I'm Katie Cowan and I'm the host of the Creative Boom podcast. For episode 51, my guest is graphic designer and art director Luke Tonge. Based in Birmingham, here in the UK, Luke describes himself, wait for it, as a shorts-wearing, tight-nerding, eyebrow-wiggling independent, which gives you some clue to his style and personality. Fun, happy and colourful. So it's not surprising then that Luke is happiest when he's surrounded by people. And aside from his freelance work, he also runs the meetup Glug in Birmingham and is one of the co-founders of Birmingham Design Festival. He also sometimes lectures at Birmingham City University, where he teaches the next generation of designers. Here we talk about the last decade or so, as we share similar paths in publishing. I was curious to know what it was like studying at Falmouth University by the sea, and how he made the most of social media and blogging back in 2007 and 8, not to mention how he survived the global economic crisis and found a whole creative community online. We learn how volunteering at Form 55 for a decade paid off, the beloved platform now called Made by Folk, as it opened so many doors for Luke. And we talk about how times have changed, why the design industry still has some way to go, but how Luke is hopeful for people entering the working world today. Before my chat with Luke, I'd love to thank our sponsor Shillington, the original graphic design bootcamp that helps students achieve award-winning portfolios and land incredible jobs in as little as 3 months. We'll be hearing from Shillington later in the show for some career advice. But for now, here's my chat with Luke. Hey Luke, welcome Mr. Birmingham, as we call you in Manchester.
Thanks, Katie. Good morning from Birmingham.
Lovely. Lovely to see your face and join me on this sunny sort of spring morning. Not quite warm yet, is it? But it's getting there.
The shorts are on, so warm enough.
Yes. I don't think it's Luke Tonge unless he's wearing shorts, because you describe yourself on your website as a Brum-based, shorts-wearing, tight-nerding, eyebrow-wiggling, ice cream-loving, independent graphic designer. I love that. That shows so much immediately about your personality.
My eyebrows have got a mind of their own. I've discovered this if I'm on video calls with people. They just see my eyebrows going up and down. Like, whoa. So, yeah, I'm
Is that how you attracted your beloved? Is that how...
Maybe. Out of sympathy, I think. No.
But where's that fun come from? I mean, you know, because it kind of carries over into your style as well.
Yeah, that's a good question. I've never really considered. I think probably the inner child that has still not grown up very much at 36 years old. A love of colour and play and sunshine and ice cream and probably like fairly naive childish things, I guess, that people grow out of that I never have. And just, I don't know, I guess I feel like I still listen to a lot of the same music that I listened to in my late teens and early 20s. And I feel kind of that perpetual child in me has not yet grown up in some ways. And so just trying to cling on to that as long as I can.
Well, I don't know. You see, this is something that always confuses me, because, what does it mean to start behaving like an adult? I mean, if it means to be compassionate and considerate and try and sort of see the world from other people's perspectives, so it's not just all about you, then sure, I'm doing an okay job with that.
Yep.
Yeah, and you are too, because that's clear in everything you do, and all the kind of people that talk of you say very similar things. But where do we sort of worry about that kind of, I'm still being a big kid? That's great. So many people lose that.
Yeah, definitely. And I think it's that thing of don't grow up, it's a trap. I think our generation is maybe redefining a little bit what growing up, like we're all, I'm in my 30s now, mid-30s. A lot of my generation and the people that I'm friends with are slightly older than that. And it's this realization that when you're in that kind of midlife zone, it's maybe not what you thought it was when you were a kid, and you don't feel that different from your adolescent years. And so it's that understanding that, although we have grown-up stuff to do and deal with and health issues and mortgages and all the rest of it, you can still maintain a sense of wonder at the world and fun, hopefully, and joy. And, if you can't be joyful about things in life with all of the amazing privilege and opportunities and benefits that we have, then we really missed a trick, I think.
Well, I'm quite a bit older than you, Luke, and it's
Quite a
my
bit.
brother. My brother's getting married this June, and I'm in the process of trying to find a wedding outfit. And I'm in that kind of age where, oh right, okay, well, no, scrap that, because it doesn't matter how old you are as a woman, but there is this kind of perception in some parts of culture, modern culture, where you've got to wear a flowery dress. And I'm like, I want a kind of like structured, weird, like Japanese style, Scandinavian, minimalist dress with something different, and wear it with like big bright trainers and just be completely wacky. And I'm, you know, but I have lost myself because I've been showing a few things. I've got a much younger friend called Lauren, and she keeps me in check. She's hilarious. And I showed her a dress and she got really cross with me. She went, Katie, no, you're better than this. You're better than this. Yeah, because it was very flowery and very floaty and very kind of classic. And, you know, I would have looked good in it, but it's just not me. So, like, just going back to what you're saying, it's fighting against that expectation, isn't it? Yeah,
being bold enough to be who you want to be, not who you feel that maybe society says you should be, I think is a real thing for as we all age, not fitting into some of those stereotypes or being. That's why I love people like we were just talking about Morag, but people like that who have very clearly kind of owned their own sense of style and are just doing what they want and are being fearless with it. I love that in people, and I hope we can all go that way as we age.
I think men get a lot of grief. Like if they, like, I know from my point of view, being a woman, you have different ages of your lives where you wear certain things or do certain things, and it's like, oh well, you know, mutton dressed as lamb and all this kind of stuff. Oh, get lost. There's this amazing woman on Instagram called Joni, and she like works out and lifts weights, and she's in her 70s, and she looks amazing, absolutely incredible. And I always say this silly thing to myself: oh, when I'm that age, I'll be more flamboyant, I'll dye my hair a wild colour. And I'm like, why are you saying that to yourself, Katie? Why not just do something a bit wacky now and just embrace it? But going back to my point, you know, I think men get a lot of flack. You know, you hear people, if you see sort of like a man over the age of 30 still wearing kind of like maybe his skate clothes from his sort of teen years, they're like, why is he dressed like that? When is he going to grow up? I mean, like,
wear a suit every day? No thanks. Jeans and shoes. No thanks.
They're not comfortable. I mean, my husband loves wearing shorts around the house. He likes his legs to be free.
Absolutely. I think once you go that way, you never want to go back. I feel so. I genuinely feel enclosed and a little bit sad when I put on a pair of trousers. So my legs long for the freedom, and that's part of the joy of being your own boss and also being a graphic designer, is you can wear whatever the heck you want, and it's nice to not have that forced on you. Yeah, definitely. And I think when we're creatives, when we're creative people, you know, it's kind of comes with the territory, doesn't it? You know? Yeah, I think there's a bit more permission to look and act a different way to the suits in society. I think that's it's part of that inherent creative urge to So you grew up in Birmingham then, is that right? No, so I'm an incomer. I'm definitely an import to the region. My wife did, and I married in. So I'm actually from the north, from a little village near a town called Retford in Nottinghamshire. Was born in Doncaster. Went to school in Retford, did my A-levels there, did a year's foundation in Lincoln, which is all kind of part of that same area, and then headed off to Falmouth, did my uni time there, and then went back home for a couple of years and then moved to Birmingham. So I've been here over 10 years, but I'm still finding my feet here. Yeah. It's a great place to... I lived there briefly in my sort of 20s when I was sort of trying to find my way. I used to work for a radio station there, so know it well, and kind of got to know it very well, because when you're a journalist, obviously you go out in the radio car quite a lot, and so that was nice. And it was a great city. Is it the second city though, Luke? Should we have a Manchester Birmingham standoff? Come on, I've got my hands up. Yeah, I know. It depends who's listening to this. That's a really interesting question, actually, and it's a good question, because creatively, I think Birmingham is a really wonderful city, and a city full of talent and full of, it's the city of 1,000 trades, and it's got this amazing heritage, as has lots of other industrial cities like Manchester. So not trying to take anything away from Manchester, but as the official second city, I think Birmingham has very much been in the shadow of Manchester and trailing behind in a lot of ways for a long time, which is always, I think that's part of the irony and part of the reason why people question it, is because if Birmingham is the second city officially, it hasn't always felt like it, or maybe acted like it, or, you know, other cities have flourished and Birmingham maybe hasn't in some ways. So I definitely, you know, my tongue is firmly in cheek when I hear that said, and there's always a lot of banter on Twitter about it between the two cities.
Oh, yeah.
I think there's a lot of similarities, and actually I'm more interested in partnerships and everyone versus London as a debate rather than Manchester versus Birmingham.
It is a silly thing because everywhere is different and everywhere has its ups and downs. I mean, London must be wonderful if you got the opportunity to live there and work there for a few years. If that's your cup of tea, exactly. You know, it's not personally my cup of tea. I love to hop in and hop out.
I love to visit and then I love to leave.
Yeah, exactly. And I know London pretty well now, so that's nice because I've had the privilege of going there over many years when I worked in PR and I had clients down there, so that was nice. And I miss those days, actually. I miss like ringing a friend like at 4:00 and saying, right, my train's at 8:00. Do you want to meet for a pint? Let's go to that nice pub in Soho that spills out onto the pavement. So I'm looking forward to that when things get back to normal again, Luke. Oh, so many people to see.
I know. I feel like we've got a year of catching up to do.
Oh God, so much catching up. I just can't wait to get back out there. But anyway, Luke, what possessed a young lad from the north to decide to go and study in Falmouth by any chance?
That's a very good question. So weirdly, my sights were not really set on Falmouth from the beginning, but when I was in art lessons, I think it was probably even GCSE or maybe A-level, I found a prospectus in one of the drawers in my art room that was an old Falmouth prospectus. And I collaged with it, and I think I took the remnants home. I still have it upstairs somewhere. And I think it must have just stuck in my brain that was a place that you could go and study creative subjects. And it was by the sea. So when we were at Lincoln on my foundation, we were encouraged to go to certain places, and they had a lot of people that went to Norwich and other, very good courses. But Falmouth was just stuck in my brain as somewhere to go and look at. So myself and my friend and both our dads went on a road trip, went down to Brighton and across to Falmouth and a few other places, checking out universities. And as you drive into Falmouth, there were almost palm trees.
It's beautiful.
And it just spoke to my heart and spirit, and thought, this is a place for me. I felt like, as someone that was very into alternative culture, and still is, the idea of being amongst surfers and rebels and in this small kind of creative community where I think there was 3,000 students there at the time, and there was 30,000 in Brighton. So like the difference was obvious. It felt like a really intimate place. And the tutors knew everyone's names, and the campus was beautiful. There were like banana trees, and it just seemed like a place where I wouldn't feel swallowed up. And I felt like that because I'd never lived in a city, I was a little bit wary of going somewhere and being a very small fish in a very, very big pond. And I think I've always gravitated towards community a bit more. So by the time you leave Falmouth, you know so many locals, and we were really good friends with the postman and shop owners, and just you couldn't walk through town without bumping into like 10 people that you knew to say hello to. And I loved that about it, and that to me was like the whole joy of being there. And feel very, very privileged to have had 3 years on the beach.
Oh yeah, but it was great fun, like having barbecues on the beach with your mates and like learning to surf.
Oh gosh, it really was a very unique experience. And although we did work quite hard, I think we can't have worked that hard because of the amount of time we spent on the beach. So it was very much, I think lots of other people spend their uni days drinking and clubbing and, doing whatever they want. But for us, it was just time on the beach was amazing.
With mates, putting the world to rights. Yeah,
playing
talking about your dreams.
Digging holes and, eating lots of ice cream. It really was amazing.
Is that where you met your wife, or?
No, I'd known her before, and it was in my final year of uni where I was kind of pursuing her via MySpace and sending her bits of post and things. Ooh. And then after uni, we got
What
together.
were you sending her mixtapes and things like that? You're not that old.
Literally was, yeah. I'm afraid I am. Maybe mixed CDs by that point. Was making mixed CDs and sending bits and bobs and then
Did you do your own CD sleeves and things like that?
Of course I did. Oh yeah, always.
Amazing.
Yeah, printed and from my own photos and proper little emo kid. So yeah, that did the trick. And I was very fortunate, actually. One of my best friends at uni, a guy called John Cherry, a really great photographer, he lived down the road from where my wife lived at the time. So I used to go and visit him and sleep over at his and go on dates with my now wife, Tash. So yeah, it all worked out rather well.
Oh, that's lovely. So what were you, what was your kind of, I'm just curious because you do dress very, differently and I love that. What was your kind of style at university then? You mentioned emo.
Oh gosh, yeah, that's quite funny. I was very into the American punk rock scene of, I guess, like bands like Blink-182 and Green Day, although I didn't particularly like either of those, but of that ilk. So anything that was alternative. So it was shorts and studded belts and bandanas and tight t-shirts and looked like a bit of a reject from MTV, I guess. I had a bag actually that was covered in little button badges, and I was known as Badge Boy around campus, I think, because this bag was quite distinctive and it was just covered in badges. So yeah, I guess I've always been kind of not trying to push my identity too much visually, but also trying to, I guess, just reflect the things that I was into. And that felt like when I was growing up, I was obsessed with Heartbreak High and a character called Drazik.
I love Drazik.
Yeah,
oh
Draz
my
was
goodness
my hero.
Me.
So
I got my eyebrow pierced because of Drazik.
Right. So he and he was a rollerblader. He was a professional rollerblader outside of his acting career, Callum Mulvey. And I was a rollerblader through my teens, and was very, very passionate about it for many years. That and BMX. So he was like the ultimate role model. So I guess I probably used to wear shells around my neck like he wore, and a lot of the same.
He was very, very cool. Very cool. So you kind of, that might have inspired Falmouth a little bit as well.
Maybe, yeah. I think it probably all is in the mix of these influences that weird how they kind of come out in your life. And
gosh, that takes me back. That really takes me back. I had
it's
a
back on
massive
Netflix.
crush.
You get on it, yeah. It's
You're joking.
No, it was added recently, and they're filming a new series apparently, but not with the same cast. A bit of a remake. So yeah, it's back.
My husband's going to kill you. He's going to
Sorry,
be like,
but it's all there. Yeah.
Well, I'll maybe try and sort of squeeze it in between episodes of House and the X-Files, which we're both watching at the moment.
Yeah.
Well, I never watched the X-Files before, so I'm
so
just
good.
catching up. I keep turning to Tom and saying, like, when I first sort of started watching it, I was, which one's the lady again? I'm so rubbish. My attention's rubbish. Is it Scully?
Dana Scully. Yeah, Scully.
Yeah. I'm like, when we first started watching it, I was like, was this woman, even though she's beautiful and very interesting, I find it so surprising that she was such a pin-up at the time. And then as the series has progressed, I've kind of like, okay, I get it.
Yeah, well, they both
she's
were
an intelligent
weirdly.
woman. She can, she keeps Mulder in check.
Yeah,
she's
a strong woman. Yeah,
I get it now. She's amazing.
She's an icon. Yep.
Yeah, I'm like, maybe I should just wear a kind of pencil skirt suit to the wedding and like cut my hair short again. Get a clipboard. No.
Start investigating things. Yeah.
So you graduated from Falmouth in 2007, during the global economic crisis. Wow. Bet that was fun.
Yeah, it was weird, I think, at the time, because although there was a lot of talk about it being a thing, you only really realise in retrospect how that impacts things. And I think we're probably seeing that a bit with this generation graduating into pandemic, that it didn't really affect you until it did affect you. And then you realise that, I graduated in the top bunch of my year group, I guess. I was fortunate. I got scraped to first. I had ambitions of going to all these boutique amazing agencies where there was like 2 or 3 staff, and I just thought they'd be like, welcome me in with open arms and be like, oh, of course we want to hire you. And then you start getting rejection letters, because it was back in the day when you'd still send post and emails. And I just thought, okay, maybe this is the evidence of the fact that people were tightening their belts and there wasn't so much interest in hiring new staff. So I didn't get hired for a good few months, and I infamously went to work at the local Woolworths, which shut down shortly after.
Oh no! No more pick and mix.
Yeah, exactly. It was a real humbling experience, really. I think because I used to work in a really nice indie record store around the corner from there that I absolutely loved, and so going from that to university to study to then go back to like a worse version of retail was just a little bit crushing for a time. But I think that's just the reality, and no one really prepares you for that after uni, that if you don't go to London and land a job straight away, if you are back in the regions, it is that little bit harder to find work because there's maybe a bit less of it around. And especially definitely at that time. So it was just a case of any old job to bring some money in. And actually, it was there that I met someone who was my boss, who said, oh, my ex-husband works at a giant design agency. Do you want me to get him to pass your CV along? Which I was like, great. Yes, I do. And a month later, I'd quit that job and started a new one. So
that's brilliant. And
you never know where things are
you never know.
From.
You've got to kind of like build a network immediately and just
I
put
think
the word
be
out.
Open to opportunity when it comes, push those doors and see which opens. And there was no guarantee I was going to get a job there, but I stayed there for 3 years. So it's funny how those things sometimes work.
Oh, definitely. You do look back. It's easy to look back and think, oh, that's interesting how that sort of came together and how I bumped into that person. And
often how little it was of your own doing, but it's often someone else that opens that door. Or, if Tina hadn't offered to pass on my CV to her ex, I probably wouldn't be talking to you today. So it's strange how it all works.
That's really generous. Thank you, Tina.
Thank you, Tina.
So you spent a decade working for various agencies, and what was that like? Was it hard work? And
yeah, it was. It's funny, isn't it? Because again, the benefit of hindsight.
Yeah.
I feel very fortunate that I had 10 years in agencies, and I really did learn, everything there, and was exposed to a lot of things from a very early age. Was afforded enormous trust, especially in my first job. Had a really wonderful creative director called John Kay at an agency called Linney, and I was kind of, they hadn't really hired juniors before. They'd just got a team of seniors, mostly white men, as was the case back then, and they kind of took a punt on me as a junior and put me into this team and gave me clients to direct and photo shoots to run and all sorts of things, and I was green as anything, but it kind of worked, and I really found my feet there, and I had a very interesting and broad kind of experience in those first 3 years. And then I moved house to get married to Tash and moved to Birmingham. So that was when that kind of transition changed. But it was definitely a really enjoyable first kind of step. Now, when I look back, there were definitely some problematic things, the way that some people were treated, and certain things that just maybe I wouldn't be so cool with now, with the benefit of hindsight and understanding how power dynamics and things work.
We're taking a little break to thank our sponsor Shillington, the original graphic design bootcamp, and get some career advice from Sydney Liguri, a designer, illustrator and entrepreneur who's also head of Shillington's campus in New York. I asked Sydney, what advice was shared to you that proved very helpful? Who was it and what did they say?
The biggest one that always sticks with me, because I am a woman working in design, and it can, I think, even globally, a lot of times creative and especially design industries can appear more, male focused, especially at the top. We see a lot of men in positions of power within the design industry. So as a woman, knowing your worth as a designer, as a creative, and being able to ask for it. The first time I was empowered to ask for more wage or, a higher pay, and then I received it, it was one of the most rewarding and important moments in my career. And then that has been reflected back to me over and over again through powerful women that I admire. So Shanti Sparrow is someone she's the Northern Hemisphere director at Shillington, and she is always giving this advice to all of our graduates. And it, obviously it goes for everybody, not just women, but knowing as a designer that you are worth being paid and that you ask for it and you don't work for free is so important. And I think if you kind of take that on, and it's not just about, yourself deserving it. It's about, as an industry, we all deserve to make money and to get paid for the work we do. And if we can band together, and if we're all asking for our worth and we're all demanding that we be paid and compensated for our work, it just lifts up the entire design industry and the entire design community. So I think that's really, really important. And then the other one, which is more short and sweet, is nobody wants to work with assholes. Anthony Wood of Shillington, Global Managing Director. And that's just, I think, something to live by, because you don't want to work with people who aren't nice, and neither do they. So if everybody just is nice and approachable and down to earth, it just creates a better, I think, design industry and workplace for designers and anybody else.
To find out more about studying graphic design at one of Shillington's 6 campuses around the world, or via its online course, visit shillingtoneducation.com. Now, back to Luke. Yeah, I worked for a couple of agencies before I sort of went freelance. Actually, I went freelance in 2007. So whilst you were graduating, I was just, realising I couldn't work for anyone else and going out on my own. And I think from my point of view, it's just one too many things that happened that made me realise that actually I was probably better off being my own boss. And I think that's the case for a lot of people who find their own way.
Yeah, I think it was never really something I'd planned or was on the cards. As like, I never thought, I can't wait to go freelance and have all of that weight on my shoulders. I quite liked having work given to me at the start of the day and a team of people to help and all the rest of it. But office politics and kind of culture, some toxic elements, some toxic people maybe in the mix, without naming names or saying too much.
Yeah,
just became... It's
difficult, isn't it? Because we're all on LinkedIn.
Yeah, sure. And you know what? Times have changed a little bit, but
they have,
thankfully. But it wasn't that long ago.
Oh, I can share some stories. But go on.
I think the whole industry could have a huge Me Too moment and cancel a lot of people quite rightly. But anyway, sometimes it's easier just to leave than to try and fight a culture that you can't change. And I felt like I was increasingly not only not loving the work, and it became, I guess it came to a point where I wasn't learning lots of new things. I was just repeating old things. And so, I was probably feeling a little bit stagnant. And I was also kind of moonlighting as a freelancer on the side. So I was doing a lot of magazine work, particularly, and other projects that were getting me more attention and bringing me more joy, importantly, and probably paying by that point. And the day job just wasn't satisfying those needs. And I don't think I was probably in a good place to be, a senior in a studio either. So it just came at the right time. 10 years, I'd kind of had enough. I felt like I'd got the confidence to strike out on my own. And that was what I did a bit over 3 years ago.
Did it take you a long time to get to that point, though? Because it's a bloody scary leap.
It took me about 5 years, I think. No, I think it probably took seriously 3 years, maybe 2 or 3 years of psyching myself up and making connections. And I was working for Monotype at the time, doing their magazine, The Recorder. So having things like that were kind of on the horizon as an ongoing client meant that I had a bit more confidence to jump ship and knew that I wouldn't be completely without work. Ironically, that the last edition that I did was when I was in full-time work, and it stopped when I left. But I think just having the promise of work was helpful and gave me the confidence that I could probably find other work. And, I was very fortunate that I did. I didn't really have many quiet periods. And in that first year, I think I earned the same freelancing as I would have done if I'd stayed in full-time work. So, that for me was a sign that this was okay and was doable. And I think put some of my wife's worries to rest, because it is a scary thing when we'd newly got a mortgage for the first time after renting for many years. And she wasn't in the best health. So there was just some concerns over is this a good time to go freelance? But, is there ever a good
terrifying
time? Yeah. So,
no, there's never a good time.
No.
Ironically, it was a pretty bad time to go freelance in 2007, 2008.
Gosh,
However, it ended up being very lucrative because the decade that followed that, brands and big business turned to people like me who were sort of cheaper, more flexible.
Yeah.
They knew that they were going to deal with me and no one else, and I wasn't going to give the work to the junior.
Yeah.
Not that there's anything wrong with the juniors, but sometimes that's just what they want. They want to see the same people.
Absolutely. And I think they want, and increasingly, I think we've seen this in the last year with the pandemic, people need to know that they're getting good value for money. And sometimes agencies can service in a way that individuals can't, but they also have fees that, individuals don't. And I know that I charge a lot less than what my agency used to charge me out at, but I know that if I'm servicing a client, they get a much better level of my attention and expertise than if it was, that money was spread across a lot of different people and paying for a lot of different things. So I think, there's people that benefit in times of upheaval and, societal shifts, and there's people that don't. And I think freelancers have, on the main, those that I've spoken to over the last year particularly have done okay.
Yeah, that's what I found. It has felt a little bit like 2008, 2009 again.
Yeah.
Because, a few people freaked out and panicked that I'm good friends with at the start of last year, quite rightly. And I just said, don't worry.
Yeah.
You'll find that opportunity comes to you this year because, it's the smaller business that sometimes can benefit from these difficult times, when the economy's looking very uncertain, because people still need their marketing, they still need their design, they still need to sort of, exist.
Absolutely.
And attract customers, and that's where you can come in. And I think it's it's a repeated moment in time where you can almost be really bolshy about the fact that you're small and you're affordable.
Yeah.
And here are the reasons why it's great to hire me, because I'm mobile, I'm flexible, I can work around your needs, not my own, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And just to make hay whilst the sun shines, I suppose. But we all do that, and it can get into sometimes an unhealthy place because we do worry about the money drying up, we worry about the work drying up, and then we suddenly find ourselves, after working so hard at all these agencies and working for ourselves and it's going really well, what do you turn down? What do you say no to?
Gosh, yeah. It's the age-old thing of buses, isn't it? That you feel like you have no work, and then everything comes at once. So you want to say yes to it all because you're terrified that there might not be any other buses coming, but there always are. It's just that thing of pacing yourself, and I'm increasingly trying to not overload myself because I know that my capacity is changing as well as I get older. In my 20s, I used to do a lot of late night, early finishes, and I was working on magazines through the night and then day job, and I just can't do that anymore. I fall asleep at the laptop at 11 o'clock or something. So just being mindful of managing your own expectations and working within your limits, I think, is really important, so that you do a good job and you don't do half a job for a lot of people. It's better to do a really good job for those that you've said yes to and have trusted you with their money to do that work for them. But it's a balance I'm still trying to figure out. Definitely haven't got there yet. Yeah.
No, neither have I. And I know you've worked incredibly hard, Luke, because I just look at your CV and I look at what you've achieved and what you're a part of, and it's like, oh yeah, he's put in the midnight hours. I think it's a difficult story to tell sometimes, because you feel when people say, oh, how come you've got to do this stuff? And an enormous part of that is the privilege that I have as a straight white man in my 30s in the UK, coming from a family that could afford to help me go to uni and all the rest of it. That stuff is so wrapped up in where I'm at and how I've got here that I can't, I never want to dismiss that. I always need to acknowledge that. But the second half of that story is I've also worked a lot harder than a lot of people maybe, or a lot harder than I could have done. I think that's the thing. It's not about comparing with others. I could have chosen not to say yes to lots of things that I said yes to, and that's come at a sacrifice of time and energy. Yeah. But that's because I love what I do, and I love the design community, and I love the life that it's given me. So I'm not a victim to any of that. I'm privileged to be doing the things that I'm doing, and even things that don't earn any money or don't generate obvious returns, they're still a privilege to be able to do, to mentor young people or to lecture at university or any of those, the design event stuff that I do is an enormous privilege. So Yeah, but Luke, even with
Yeah.
all of that privilege, you still applied yourself. You've still worked incredibly
so.
hard.
Yeah.
So, it doesn't just come to you. You have to sort of make it happen. And we always worry about that, don't we, when we talk to younger people and they're just coming out of, they're graduating. We don't want to sell that kind of, you've got to work hard.
Oh.
No, God, no. And, we did for a while. We both kind of fell for it ourselves, didn't we? And kind of got wrapped up in it because it actually got us places.
That's
sadly.
it. And it's hard to, I have this conversation a lot with students who ask me about should they do unpaid work. And, the blanket answer to that nowadays is no, that you shouldn't do unpaid work. But the reality is the first magazine that I worked on, Boat Magazine, I did for free for 3 years. And that only by doing that, I could afford to do that because I was in full-time work. So it was, I was giving up my free time. It was a privilege, again, to be able to do that. But I said yes to that opportunity. That was featured in Creative Review and, lots of other places and got noticed.
Amazing.
And that was what led me to be invited to pitch to do the recorder. So without that free work, I would never have got to do the paid work. And then without that stuff, I probably wouldn't have the platform where I'm someone that's speaking to you now. So it does all often trickle back to saying yes to opportunities that were a sacrifice at the time. And I know that's kind of unfair because not everyone is in a position where they can afford to do that. Yeah, and there's a lot of exploitation. Free internships were a thing back then, and you didn't expect, there wasn't the same expectation that you'd be paid for your time in the same way that there is now. And I think that's a good shift that's happened. But I do think some of the opportunities that maybe, I see competitions and things being shot down as soon as a breath of them is mentioned on Twitter or, anything now. There's just so many, like the rules of the game have changed, but not everyone's been told. And I think that leads to some confusion and some frustration. And I think it
because
maybe...
that's the argument, isn't it? It's like, okay, so you don't do that, but there are plenty of people who will. And what kind of opportunities will they get out of that from doing it? Not that I'm like championing, speculative work.
No,
it's just, it's a complicated topic, isn't it?
It is. And that's the thing. I think discussion, especially online, doesn't leave much room for nuance and for understanding that there are different, there are instances where some things are not as bad as other things. It's not that everything is terrible and everything is evil, and nothing is fair.
No, Luke, you are wrong. This is how you should think.
Exactly.
This is how you should think. This is the right way to think,
Sorry,
Luke.
Yeah, no, you're right. You're dead right.
Well, that makes us all smarter, doesn't it?
Yeah, exactly. It's a bit of a minefield, and you don't ever want to put your hand up or stick your head up above the parapet in case you get it blown off.
We call them the thought police.
There's a lot of keyboard warriors out there for sure, but there's also a lot of.
But it's a shame because
fights that need fighting, and I'm glad that there are people.
Definitely, it's progress. There's got to be a healthy balance, though, hasn't there?
I think so.
If we can't talk about these things without kind of fear of being shouted down, how are we ever going to sort of learn or progress?
Absolutely. I've seen that, especially over the last year with Black Lives Matter and the cultural awakening that, industry has had about diversity and representation, that the people that need to be getting their heads around this and talking about it are pretty much the people that are most at risk of getting foot in mouth and saying the wrong thing and being shut down. So I think there's a lot of fear around even talking about it because you don't want to say the wrong thing or you don't want to use the wrong terminology. So actually that doesn't lead to progress. That leads to
silence.
Exactly. Alienation and othering and space between the people that actually need to be, the people that have, the opportunity to change the narrative a little bit from within industry. And I do see that happening, but I don't see it happening maybe as much as if there wasn't this culture of fear of, getting it wrong publicly and being cancelled. So it's a tough one to.
It's a strange world that we find ourselves in.
Fine line that you have to be a diplomat, I guess, and a bit of a skilled
This is why I keep it very light in everything I do, because you know I don't.
You
see,
can always upset people if you're not careful.
Well, it's not that. It's just, you know, I think there's a time and place. It's nice to be amongst good friends who you can sort of have open debates with in a safe place.
Yes.
But I think for me, Twitter, I like to keep light and fun and supportive and creative, and that just suits me.
I think that's such wisdom, Katie, because you know there's wisdom in choosing your counsel very carefully, and I think we've all been on a journey of growing over the last couple of years, especially with some of this stuff, and you know have changed our views on a lot of things, and that's good, but that has to come within a trusted environment, and I'm very fortunate to have the BDF team that we've all been journeying that stuff together. You know, how we talk about things and use of pronouns and so many different issues that maybe we hadn't thought of 5 years ago. Yeah. But we're having those discussions and we're journeying that stuff together, and we're keeping ourselves accountable so that we don't mess up as much in public, which I'm sure we probably would do more if we didn't have each other. So it's definitely.
Well, everyone I talked to about the Birmingham Design Festival have been very complimentary. It was all anybody talked about, actually, because you really did it differently to anybody else. And that was lovely. It was like little things like, you know, you didn't sort of force people to stay in the sort of big conference room or, you know, all one day. People could mix and match and pop in and pop out. And that was a real kind of wonderful thing to have for a festival.
Thank you. Yeah, definitely. I mean, that was mostly the brainchild of Dan, in that he really wanted to showcase the city and do, you know, Birmingham is not just a city that you want to go to for a day, sit in a conference hall and leave. There's so many, you know, there's beauty to be found there, and there's
it's a great city,
a thriving independent scene, and there's different, you know, like Manchester has the Northern Quarter, Birmingham's got Digbeth and the Jewellery Quarter, and these different areas with different personalities and different history and different buildings. And so we did want to showcase the city to people, and a big part of that was that our audience was more external than internal. So more people came, like yourself, from outside of Birmingham than inside. So that was a real opportunity to show off the city and to showcase, you know, places, and to make the most of it from our point of view, because we had a very ambitious program. We didn't just want to fill a room with thousands of people. We wanted to fill lots of rooms with lots of people. And we achieved that through enormous hard work and goodwill and generosity from lots of people, certainly not just me and Dan, our amazing team and our volunteers and speakers, and even the audience that just got on board and were prepared to take a punt on something that was new, which is quite a scary thing. When, you know, when you're giving, I mean, we were very radical in our pricing. So I think that helped, that you didn't feel like you'd been swindled if you got rained on, or if, you know, a microphone didn't work or something. But it's still scary when you're doing something for the first time. And we'd connected with a lot of other festivals and people, you know, like the Design Manchester guys and lots of others, Mark Steen in Cheltenham. And we owe a debt of gratitude to all of those that helped us. But there comes a point where you decide to do things your way, and you are like, okay, well, that works for them. That's great. What are we doing? What does Birmingham need? What do we think this community deserves? How can we serve and support them? And so that's really scary when you're responsible for that, and your name's attached to it, and you obviously get some of the glory, which is lovely, but you also have all of the weight of fear and expectation and dread and panic.
Well, it's a scary thing and a massive thing to organise. So it was great that you could do it with your friend Dan. But you know, one of the other bits of feedback that's always stuck out in my mind is how everybody said it felt very inclusive, very warm and embracing. There didn't seem to be any kind of like elitism that you might get at some festivals where, oh, you know, you're a nobody. You can
the green room experience.
Just move the green room experience. This weirdness that goes on where they all think they're so.
I think part of I mean, that isn't our culture as people or as the team, so that was never going, I don't think was ever really going to happen, and was certainly something that we worked very hard to rail against. I think
you're not going to hire a kind of separate room for all the speakers and have your own little kind of
none of that. And also, like, there's just a reality check, which is we're all just a bunch of designers, whether you're on the stage, whether you're helping the speaker get to the stage, or whether you're sat in the audience. There's there should be no egos, and there should be no, there's an acknowledgement of talent and of success, and that's great. And you need names to draw people in and all the rest of it. But equally, the talks that we enjoy the most are usually the most honest, from the people that you don't know about, showing you stuff that you've never seen before. It's not the big portfolio showcase that you've seen all the work and you've heard it all before. And we purposefully mix up our lineups to make sure that we're showcasing lesser known people. But also the people who are the names are people who have no ego either. So Anthony Burrell's a great example of that, in our first year, we reached out to a load of people. Fortunately, most of them said yes. I'd known Anthony a little while previous from blogging and taking pictures of his books and things. So there was like some degree of trust, but still it was me saying, Anthony, can you come and speak at this thing, please? We can't afford to pay you because we're not making any money. There is no money, again, which is a contentious thing. And we've changed our views on that over time. But he said, yeah, of course, you don't even need to pay me to travel. I'll hop in my car. I'll be there. What can I do? Do you want me to DJ? This, and people like that nice clearly guy. Exactly are nice people first and amazing practitioners second. They're the people that you need on board for that, especially in that first year where you're clueless as to what you're doing. So we were blessed with amazing responses and amazing generosity from those speakers, who some of them had never been to Birmingham before. I remember, I think it was either Marina Willer or Astrid Stavro getting off the train at New Street and getting in a taxi, because that's what you do in London, and we were like a few hundred yards up the road, and they sat in traffic for half an hour, like going round and round trying to find us. But it was new for all of us, so that kind of being in it togetherness is lovely, and it feels very organic, and it feels like there are less barriers between people. So that vibe is something we work very hard to maintain, and I think it's natural in the city, and it's probably it trickles down, hopefully, from Dan and myself and the rest of the team, that we don't really entertain egos very much. And I think
it definitely comes across.
We don't really feel like we have them or deserve to have them either. So why should anyone else?
I love that. That's kind of what Creative Beam's ethos is. Always tried to sort of support those that didn't, I never really sort of come out and say this because I don't want it to see, oh, right, so I've been on Creative Beam. That means, but when the recession happened, I realised that if you wanted to get publicity on some of the publications in the industry, you had to, back then, you had to be quite a big name or be doing work at the top of your game type thing. And I was like, well, what about all these other people who, don't necessarily... haven't their work isn't necessarily there yet, or their name isn't very much known, or why don't I do a platform and see if I can help them a little bit? And naive 20-something, and going back to what we said about doing something where you don't get paid. I mean, I don't think I made any money from Creative Beam for the first 6 or 7 years. It was just a hobby, and the purpose was always to try and there's no ego here. There's no elitism. Everyone is welcome. Unfortunately, I've got the new problem of having so many emails come in that it's really difficult to include everyone, which really, really frustrates me. But there you go. But
I think you do an amazing job with that, Katie, and I think you always have. I feel like
I wasn't fishing for that.
I know you weren't. And if I thought you were fishing, I probably wouldn't have said it. But you're a very good example of design press that thinks as we think and is championing people, not just in the bubble and not just in London and not just that are at the top of the game, but are helping bring talent on and championing people that maybe don't have a voice anywhere else. And that's really important. And I think that was one of the reasons... That's become even
more important recently.
That was part of the reason why we as BDF wanted to speak to you early on, and have benefited and loved the support that we've had from you, because we knew that we didn't have to jump through hoops, and we didn't have to pay you, and we didn't have, there's lots of things that can not be great parts of media and journalism.
Why would you need to pay for me?
Quite well, because some people expect money for exposure, and there's just strange pay to play stuff.
I've got to find a balance. Publishing is a tough one, but it's really sweet when like a kind of small an unknown yet designer gets in touch and they're like, how much is it to get some exposure on Creative Beam? And I'm like, it's nothing.
If I love your work,
let's have a look at your portfolio. If you're a massive brand that wants to, promote something to my audience,
that's a
then
different
fair enough.
conversation.
What, cha-ching, where's the money? Because it helps me pay for the design, and it helps me pay for running the thing, and it gives me a salary, and it helps pay for my writers, and helps buy my in-house software developer husband some nice books and technology now and again, just to keep him sweet.
Absolutely.
Which is really handy to have. So I think the first time I actually met you was when you were a contributor at Form 55, which was an excellent platform, doing very similar things to Creative Boom. I think I'm pretty sure Form 55 was around before Creative Boom, and then it's now made by folk.
Correct. Yeah, and before Form 55, it was. Oh, was it the Serif? It had another name. Anyway, Glenn and Jack, who started it back in the day, ran it for a little while, and they kind of were growing and adding contributors. And in fact, a friend of mine, Guy, who I was at university with, he joined while we were at university, I think, or shortly after. And I think I maybe followed suit in my first year of work, so maybe like 18 months after that. So it definitely was around the same kind of time that you were starting up with Creative Boom. And it felt like a real exciting time in design publishing. I guess with the internet and blogging was still a big thing, and creative review, and it's nice that we're obviously around, it's nice that was just starting, but it felt like it was something different, and it was just lovely to be part of. It felt like a group of people who all were really passionate about the same thing, and because I wasn't always surrounded by that in my day job, it was another kind of way of discovering amazing work, staying sane, exactly, community, inspiration, platform building for other people, and networking without really knowing it. So I think
definitely.
That's one thing that I wouldn't have been able to help start the festival and other things if I didn't have that connection to lots of other people. And that really came through years of just sharing their work and discovering, making friends through, like I mentioned, Anthony's book. We used to take pictures of books that we'd receive and review them. He would then ask for those pictures for his website or whatever. And you just build small connections with lots of people. And that was a really lovely organic thing.
Yeah, and without realising it back then, you were sort of prepping yourself for what you're doing today, which is the Birmingham Design Festival. You've got all these kind of connections, this network now, and everybody knows of you. So,
thought.
And I'm not sure if Form 55 paid, but,
It didn't. No. It wasn't really generating much income. I think Glenn wanted it to, because he valued the work that the contributors did, and he always looked after us. We got T-shirts and there were trips and things, but it's quite a costly thing, as I'm sure you well know, to run sites like that.
It is.
So you have to adapt and change, and I guess a lot of journalism and some of those sites have gone by the wayside as social media has maybe taken over some of that space. But that's why I think it's so nice to see Creative Boom flourishing and going from strength to strength, because I kind of miss those days of blogging about other people's work, and it's great that some people are still doing it.
Yeah, it's been a really tough ride, actually. 12 years. 12, it'll be 12 in July.
It's an amazing achievement.
Well, I didn't realise it was, actually, until I've allowed myself to sort of look back. I think when 10 years came around, I thought, right, okay, Katie, you've kept doing this thing. It's not always been your proudest work. It's not always been, a platform that you can proudly display or whatever. But actually, a lot of the work, as you know, comes from the community building, the all of the hours that you have to put in, just basically doing all these other things that you don't think about, like setting up your social media and making sure you're hitting things at the right time, and getting things right. I shared a story on Twitter the other day, and somebody was absolutely angry as hell at me for not mentioning the Twitter profile of the artist, and it's like, oh well, actually that's I'm not going to respond to you. You seem very angry. But it's really tough, and so you have to sort of give yourself credit where it's due, I guess.
Absolutely, and celebrate.
But we feel that. What is it with us Brits? We're not.
Oh, we're rubbish at it. I think
we're rubbish.
No, we are, and I think actually that's probably a good thing in some ways, because the flip side often is like brash. Hey, I'm so great. And
I'm amazing.
That's also a little bit that offends our Britishness. But I think there's I do a lot of work with students, as you know, and a big part of that is about confidence. And you know, that's a huge thing, especially with people who aren't young men. And even then sometimes that, you know, people see confidence as arrogant so often, or it gets confused in the media and, you know, what our views are of people that are confident. And actually being quietly confident is such a great and powerful and admirable thing. It irks us a little bit when we see people that are confident, I think sometimes, because it stabs at our imposter syndrome. And if we're not confident, we think, well, you know, how are they confident, or why are they confident, or why am I not confident? And I think you only as you grow and you learn that you can be an introvert and be confident, you can be shy and confident, you can be imposter syndrome and still confident. It's a weird thing, but as long as it doesn't tip into arrogance and showboating and how great am I think a bit of confidence goes a long way, and it's actually a really good thing.
Do you think I should cancel the big T-shirts that I've ordered with my face on it?
No, you should.
It says, "This person is awesome."
Yeah, sign me up. I'll have a medium or probably a large.
Oh gosh. So we've both grown up with the internet, and we've embraced everything that social media has brought to us. That social media in the early days gave us so much scope to build communities and raise our profiles. And now they've taken it away from us. They've taken it away.
It's all changed. Yeah.
Oh my goodness, Instagram.
Do you know what? Even pre-Instagram, I know I'm showing my age and it's a bit old and nerdy, but MySpace really was like a glorious period for me. I think when I was at uni, and I was, you know, I never wanted to be a digital designer, but there's little bits of HTML that you pick up from customizing your profile and the friends that you made and the way that you could showcase your personality online and through messaging apps. You know, I had many great friendships that were started that way. And then Tumblr, which was an amazing community and experience for a number of years. And that was really what got me noticed and helped me join Form 55, was regularly sharing and writing about work. They really were amazing times on the internet. And I'm sure there were problems too, but it definitely didn't feel like the algorithms were in control. It felt like there was just a load of people that were just doing stuff. And I you know, I loved Instagram and I love Twitter sometimes and other bits of social media, but it definitely is a different place now. And I always am a bit wary when advising people that, like, oh, you need to be on these platforms. I think now it's like, it helps you if you're on these platforms, but not at the detriment of your mental health. And it's such a minefield that, you know, you can do without it. It's just, it's been very good to a lot of people. You know,
it's remembering it's a platform for work and
it's a tool that you can use if you want to, but you don't have to.
Exactly. It's a positive tool, and not to sort of like fall into the trap of doom scrolling and then, you know, going into that horrible kind of hellhole where you're kind of comparing your work to others. Yeah. And then like even comparing your life. You see somebody, they've taken a Friday off and they're up in the hills walking, and you're like, why am I at my desk? I've been at my desk for 10 hours.
Yeah, absolutely. Or they've got
that kind of thing.
12 babies and they're multimillionaire and all the rest of it, and you just think,
oh no, I'm not jealous of the 12 babies.
No, neither am I. But
I'm like, okay, that's very cute, but not for me.
Yeah.
So 2020 happened for somebody that loves community and is drawn to people and doing all these wonderful in-person events. How did that hit Luke Tonge?
Like a freight train between the eyes at first. There was a period of resignation of like, oh, this won't be as bad as we think. We'll just keep moving things so that things can still happen, because we wanted them to happen so badly. And people don't know necessarily the amount of time that goes into prepping some of these things. And, you know, it's years in the making. And we'd planned and prepped a really fantastic conference for last year. Speakers' flights were booked. Like, it was literally, we were good to go. And then obviously the rug was pulled from under us. So there's a period of like mourning for that, where you're just like, how is this happening? And then there's a realization of like, get your head out your ass. Worse things are happening to a lot of people. This is just plans and time and money, and the world hasn't ended for us. So then it was a realization that community could be found, that community exists outside of public gatherings. And I have this discussion sometimes with people who say like, digital friendships aren't real, or, you know, you can't be friends with people that you've never met, or, you know, that's nonsense. I've benefited enormously.
I don't agree.
From, you know, connections with people.
Same.
You know, I know you've talked about this a lot, but friendships can be strengthened so much in these kind of times where you physically can't be together. So, you know, people picked up the phone and spoke to me in the last year who I'm pretty sure wouldn't have done if it wasn't for the pandemic. So that's a real lovely thing. And people were very generous and open with their time and experience. You know, you saw all of those Instagram lives from designers interviewing each other and platforms stepping up and offering free content. And there was just like an enormous connectivity. And I know that we all got a little bit burnt out by that towards the end of last year. And, you know, you saw a lot of slowdown with those things. But it was a real reminder of design community as opposed to design industry coming together, and people really connecting, and Slack groups popping up here, there and everywhere, and just all kinds of amazing things that meant you didn't feel on your own. Even if you were physically isolated, you were still very connected. So I think that we didn't feel like we needed to try and rush something as BDF last year. So we're planning a digital event this year because we don't yet feel confident with an in-person thing this summer. So we're working hard towards that. We kind of dabbled our toes with digital events with Glug and Ladies Wine and Design that our team runs. So we definitely kind of felt that we were keeping some connection with our communities, but without trying to overload them and say, you must come to this thing. You know, students have been on Zoom all day. The last thing they want to do is socialize on Zoom, for instance. So it's just being mindful of people's time and not doing things for the sake of it, but doing things when it feels right. And we've definitely missed bodies in a room together. I think there's something really special about that atmosphere and that vibe of just being together and personal connection, and those little serendipitous things where you just bump into someone that you've not seen for ages, or those little catch-ups, or there might only be like really small interactions, but that hug or that high five or whatever, they're really precious. And we've definitely missed that.
Precious.
You know, we need that back, but we don't need that at the expense of people's lives. So we can't be selfish and kind of risk unnecessarily. You know, our audience is clearly on the younger end of things, so they're not going to be vaccinated yet. And we've just got to be really mindful that as much as we want to have things back to normal, or old normal, that isn't going to happen for a while. And people's well-being is more important. And that's a holistic thing. It's, you know, it's mental well-being, but it's also physical, and we can't be too risky. So we're figuring that out slowly.
Yeah, we're all figuring it out. We're figuring it out as we go along, and it's been quite a year. I almost feel like now's a good time to bring up the fact that you're a secret Bon Jovi fan, and you can almost sing, "Oh, we're almost there."
I won't be singing that on the podcast, but yeah, not so secret, not so ironic Bon Jovi fan. I love 80s hair metal and classic naff rock. It's so bad it's good, I think.
I am not a judge of music. I'm not a judge. I'm not a music snob. I love all of that kind of... I really have a thing for 80s movies and 80s songs, you know.
Absolutely.
Really cheesy 80s. Because
so
it was
good.
Very romantic and very optimistic.
Feel good, for sure. You want to listen to... I discovered that working in a record store, you meet a lot of people that are music snobs. And then I think when you go to uni and you meet other people that are into very different things to you, like your eyes are opened, and you suddenly like, oh, wow, I'm allowed to like a bit of hip hop, or I'm allowed to like a bit of death metal, or I'm allowed to like R&B, or whatever it is that you'd never thought of before, because it wasn't like your little niche. And when you're in like your high school, you're the goths, or you're the, I don't know, Grebos or whatever, you feel like you daren't admit that you like something that shows that you've got slightly broader palette maybe. So then when you hit your 20s, you're like, sod this, I'm just going to listen to what I actually enjoy listening to rather than stuff that I should listen to. And I think that's quite liberating. And yeah, I'm definitely in that stage of, you know, I do like shouty, angsty music, and that is mostly what I listen to. But hey, everyone needs a bit of Bon Jovi now and then.
Which is so weird, knowing how kind of, you know, bubbly and friendly, and, you know, you grew up in a small town, and and then it's like...
it's literally that small village little kid.
Complete contrast.
Yeah. I think it's that thing of trying to find yourself and what you identify with, and growing up in like skate and BMX culture, and punk rock kind of naturally follows from that. And then you find that there's a different subcultures that are also, there's a very flat hierarchy in alternative music where, although there's obviously like big names, we would still go to shows and hang out with bands afterwards that had been on stage a few minutes before. And you know, like pop concerts don't have that. There's a gap. There's like a physical gap, but there's also this thing of like untouchable pop stars. And in, you know, hardcore punk, it'd be house shows and garage shows and hanging out on the van afterwards. And I love that connection between like performer and audience. There's very little distance, and I think that's maybe some of that's rubbed off in the way that we try and do events. And we don't have, like, at our events, the speakers sit in the audience with other people and then they'll just get up and speak. There isn't this kind of green room experience unless it's, you know, absolutely requested. But I think that killing the ego thing is really important, that we all realize we're all just human beings.
Definitely. We are all the same.
We all poo.
We really do. But have you ever pooped with a backpack on?
No. And I'm speaking at something with Meg in a few weeks' time, so I'm excited to hear more about her pooping adventures as a fellow pooper.
She's so great. Really good fun. And actually, you know, doing the podcast for the last year has got me through.
Yeah,
it's been a silver lining for me because, you know, I've been I'm human as well. I've been on a journey and learning stuff about myself. I've realised I got a bit stuck and I was like, okay. Yeah. And so to be able to talk to all you wonderful people and hear how it's been for you, and, you know, it's got me through. It's been inspiring.
I don't think I would be half as happy and sane today with the last year that we've had if I hadn't had other people to focus on at different times. So whether that's students or mentees or team doing things with, or just friends in industry that also, like me, needed someone to talk to occasionally. I feel like I've developed so much deeper friendships as a result of this with people that I never would have expected to. And I think that's a really lovely thing, that sometimes, like, you bump into people digitally and you think, oh, they're really interesting. Like, there's a fit there, there's a connection, and they're the people that you develop friendships with. And I love that. That can happen and flourish in difficult times.
Yeah, I think, like I said, I think one of the silver linings of the pandemic, you know, it's been awful for many people, but you know, we take positives from what we can, and it, like you say, it really has sort of just almost felt like a reset. Yeah. You know, like, for example, I feel like it's okay that I just do one take for my intros and outros for a podcast. And I really do. Yeah. You know, I just don't overthink it. I'm like, oh, you know what? If I stumble over a word, it's fine. Whereas before, oh my God, I would have done about 500 takes.
I think that perfectionism thing is slowly being shaken off by a lot of people, because we do, our struggle is what makes us interesting. And I think is the thing that helps people relate to us. And whether that's in our work or in our, you know, in lots of different areas of life, that's often where we connect with people in a more deep and, powerful way. And I think just because we've all been vulnerable and we've all experienced some degree of loss, whether that's time or hopes or dreams or people or whatever over the last year, it's kind of leveled things out. And I think people are a lot more honest and open about those things, or have been a bit more vocal about it, and that's a good thing, because there's enough showboating that goes on. I think we need a bit more of that vulnerability and honesty.
Yeah, we all need a little bit more love, and I definitely think I need to now go and buy some shorts. Definitely
get your shorts on. Come on, the sun is almost shining.
Well, thank you, Luke. I've really enjoyed our chat, and I know that when the Birmingham Design Festival is back on next year, fingers crossed.
Well, this summer, August, we're going for an August digital event, and then we'll be back in person next year, pandemic allowing, for sure.
Well, I'm going to turn up, and no matter what, I'll
in your shorts, hopefully.
I'll be in my shorts.
Come on. On the front row.
I haven't got good legs like you, Luke.
I don't believe that for a second.
No, I'm not blessed. I'm not blessed with legs. I've got my grandpa's legs.
Oh, what fantastic legs he had.
They were sturdy, built of northeastern.
This is it. Their job is to hold you up. So as long as they're doing that. Thank you so much, Katie.
No, it's been great.
Appreciate the time.
Thanks, hon.
Lovely to catch up.
You've been listening to the Creative Boom podcast with your host, Katie Cowan. Thanks to our sponsor, Shillington, the original graphic design bootcamp with 6 campuses around the world and an online course. To find out more, go to shillingtoneducation.com. To listen or subscribe to the Creative Boom podcast, visit creativeboom.com/podcast. And if you're enjoying the show, please let us know. Give us some love on any of our socials or by leaving us a review. Join me next time when my guest will be graphic designer and illustrator Hakiran Kalsi, also known as Haki.